Afternoon, my name is George Nager. I'm here with Tony Giese.
That's correct, George.
And we're going to discuss shooting a motorcycle. Granted, you can shoot a motorcycle at your house, but if you want something that's going to go into a magazine, going to go on the web, something like that, it's going to require a lot more effort than a guy with a camera.
That's correct.
So we're going to discuss a few things on what each of us do. Tony is a full-time photographer. I'm a part-time photographer, but both of us specialize in photography, but we come from a slight different angle. So this is what we're going to discuss today: how to get a real nice shot of your bike. And what we've done is Tony has set up a studio here at the IMS in Daytona Bike Week. So let's talk about first camera. That would be a handy thing to have, right?
It's good to have a camera, George.
All right. Tony, tell them what camera you have.
This is a Nikon D300. I've got a 14 to 24 zoom lens on here. It's one of the top lenses for Nikon here. It's a wide zoom, which gives you a nice perspective on the bike, which can let you kind of view down the side of the bike. If you're shooting the pipes get
A little bit larger.
kind of lets you look down. It adds nice leading lines in photographing a bike. So,
and we're in a studio setting. We're going to discuss that in a few minutes. What I shoot is a Canon 7D. I'm shooting a 17 to 55. Both of us are shooting 2.8, and that's the wide open aperture. And the one thing that we're using, that you'll see what Tony has on his, is he has a Pocket Wizard. Now, I use a Pocket Wizard also, and the Pocket Wizard, we're using that to control the lights. This is a bike made by Brass Ball Bobbers. It's a custom production bike called the 69 Chopper, and we picked this one because of the color, and it's just a general purpose bike. It's short, and it's easier for me to move, by the way.
yeah, what we've got here, George, is we've got 3 9-foot sections of paper. We're overlapping about 6 inches on here. The reason why it's 9 foot is because it fits in the car or the SUV. If you can go longer, but then you'd have to have a pretty big vehicle to get them in there. But we overlapped them, and then we ran a roll across the floor this way here. So when you run it across that way, we can change it out, because when the bikes come in, they tend to track up your paper. So you have to eventually change it out. The other thing that comes in handy is like a white eraser that we use, and we kind of come in here, and sometimes you can erase some of the very dark sections and try to salvage your paper as long as you can.
And this light that Tony that we have set up here is for the backdrop.
That's correct. What it does, it shines, and it's about a stop brighter than the other lights. We have 4 lights that we're working with here. This actually has barn doors on it so that you can kind of control the light. So we want to keep this off the bike, so we close these so it kind of just hits the backdrop.
And to do the backdrops, since the light falls off, you're using 2 of them set at an angle so that we pick up both sides. See, we go over here, we're using the other White Lightning's over here, and that has a barn door on it, and that's just illuminating only the backdrop. And the reason Tony's going at least to stop more in the backdrop is so that when the bike is correctly exposed, the backdrop becomes completely white, and you don't have to do a lot of Photoshop work with it.
That's correct. We're trying to get rid of the seams in there, and you can't go if you go too much too bright with them, what'll happen is you'll actually blow out the highlights on the bike. So like if you've got through the spokes there, you won't even see the spokes. So you want to make sure that you're not too bright on that background.
About 1 stop is good.
That's about right, yeah.
Now, Tony, let's talk about the second one, or the second series of lights. Now, these are with diffusers, and it's another White Lightning, and it's got a diffuser over it. Let's talk about the diffuser, Tony.
The diffuser softens the light so that it's not real intense on there.
And then the other one is basically a similar diffuser, except it's a little bit larger.
It's larger, and it's got one of the newer White Lightnings on it.
It's got a 32 instead of the 1800 on it.
So it's about a
So,
stop brighter.
Stop brighter. So that basically is how our lighting is, and as I pull back and kind of pan over the front, you'll see that we've got 3 pieces of paper, or Tony has 3 pieces of paper, and now the paper drops down. You'll see the curve, it drops down and comes all the way in the front of the bike. The reason for this is depending on how you're shooting determines how much background you're going to need. We talked about the camera, which means that it doesn't matter which camera you have, but the settings on the camera make a difference. So the one thing that we want to start with is the ISO. And ISO is the same as the old ASA for film. Now, Tony sets his ISO, what, around 200?
200 on the D300.
And I set on my 7, I'm setting at 200 also. One of the reasons is it's noise. You want the crispest picture and the less amount of noise in there. So Tony, tell me about your 200 on your camera. How does that handle with noise?
Well, with the strobes, it works really good because you need an intense amount of light. The lower you have your ISOs, the better the blacks are going to be, because if you're shooting in the higher ISOs, some cameras you can go way up 3200s, 6400. But then what happens, you start to develop a little bit of noise in there, and when you blow them up, it's going to look grainy like.
The next thing we're going to discuss is the shutter speed. And the ISO, the shutter speed, and the f-stop all are interlinked together to get a correctly exposed picture. So what shutter speed are you running?
I'm shooting at 200, George. 200 just, they're again trying to shut down on some of the ambient light because we're trying to get all the light off the strobes here.
And the last thing we have is the aperture. And what aperture setting do you prefer?
Well, I was shooting around f14, f16, not all the way up there, but you can all the way shoot like at f22, sometimes f32. This one here goes up to, I think, 22. But
yeah.
The f-stop works like the iris of your eye, so when you're in low light, your eye kind of opens up, and that's the same way you should work your camera. So when you're shooting with real bright lights, you close it down, which is giving you the
less light coming in.
Yep, f16, f22, f32, and that also gives you better clarity. So, like George was saying, you know, if you're focusing back here, you're going to be able to see a lot more down the bike than if you just shot wide open. Now, when you're doing portraiture, you shoot wide open because you want to blur out that background.
Yeah.
But for bikes, you'd want to get as sharp as you can.
And you do want it very, very sharp, and so that's why you're shooting with a much smaller aperture. A smaller aperture means it has a larger number. When you dial in, you're going to be shooting, like as Tony said, f14, 16, 18, 20, 22, whatever that is. 2.8 is wide, and you'll only get just whatever you focused on in focus, and everything else will start falling off. Well, now it's time for Tony to take some pictures. I was going to take some pictures, but I'm in black. Tony's in white. Tony, tell them why I can't take pictures.
Well, you can, George, but a lot of bikes have, this bike doesn't have a tremendous amount of chrome, but some of them are all chrome, and what happens is if you're in a dark color or whatever, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb in there. So I'm wearing white to try to blend in a little bit with the white floor that we have here and the white backgrounds that we have. Just trying to not be so visible in the chrome, because the chrome is just like a mirror and it reflects everything back.
You will notice that we see Tony's face, his hair, the camera, his hands, and some white. So Tony, talk us through doing some shots, please.
Okay, well when I'm shooting the motor right now, I always kind of like to shoot, rather than such a flat shot, I always like a little bit, again I'm talking perspective here, because when you, it's kind of, a photograph you should look at as artwork, and it should take you back in the distance. You know, if you just do a flat-on shot, which you can do, I normally do it, but it's not quite as exciting as shooting down and getting more perspective, like this here.
I like the curved D&D pipes on this, because it gives it kind of a racing look, just sitting still with the pipes curved in.
Yeah, so it's looking really good.
Now you'll see that Tony's now moved to the front.
And sometimes you do some down shots. I like to do low shots and kind of looking down at it as well. You get as many different angles as possible. You never know which is going to look best. And sometimes looking up the forks here. And you can shoot vertical and horizontal. Depending how you frame everything. So I always like to shoot kind of this way here too, kind of shoot low on the front of the bike. I think that always makes a nice, and there again, getting the perspective of the bike, I think always makes a really nice shot.
Now also, Tony shoots from a ladder.
There again, we're adding, like you said, a unique angle to it, and what you don't want to do is stand in front of the lights. You kind of want to get in between the lights to do the shot, but you can kind of get in there and then it gives you a really nice view of the bike. It gives you a different, because you can see the seat, you can see on top of the tank, and you can see the headlight and everything very well.
These are the shots that other people are not going to take, and other people are, and then nobody else will see them. So you're going to have something that's different than the run-of-the-mill shot that you're going to see from the side or a three-quarter shot.
And that's all the studio lighting helps, and the good cameras, you know, using a good camera and doing it right.
Tony makes his living doing this. He set this studio up for us. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, Tony, how would they do that?
You can just search out my name on Google, Tony Giese, and that's spelled G-I-E-S-E, and pretty much pop up on there.
And obviously Tony travels because we're in a large venue right now. And what is this, Ocean?
This is the Daytona Beach Ocean Center?
Yeah, Ocean Center.
It's actually a new wing. They just built this on a couple years ago, which is very nice.
So if anybody needs to get a hold of Tony, it's fine. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you about shooting either a whole show or even just doing a single bike, right?
Sure, happy to help anybody with whatever photography needs.
And he's doing a great job on these bikes. Everyone, we're at the IMS show here in Ocean and Daytona Beach, and every bike that's entered this show is getting a studio portfolio. So we wanted to give everybody a thumbs up and hope this video helps.
Been some awesome bikes here this year. We saw some last year that were incredible, and there we're talking about the show right now. So it's been amazing bikes. You got to come to Daytona and see the show if you can hear what I'm saying.